Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be filling in our notes for section 1.1. This is in your packet. So this video is going to cover examples 1 and 2 in your Geometry 8 packet. All right, so if I take a look at example number 1, what I'm being asked to do is to name the following geometric figures using the correct notation. And so let's take a look at this together. So the first thing I notice about my first shape right here is that it's got a parallelogram. Now, this is the symbol that we use to represent a plane. So I know that this can be named plane. And this A in the top left corner tells me that I can call that plane A. Okay, so one way that I can name a plane is to just use a capital letter. And so I could name this plane A. Now, I'm actually going to come down to the last one here because you'll notice that down here, I also have a parallelogram. However, there are 3 points on this parallelogram. So we can name planes in 2 ways. One is with a capital letter, and then the other one is with 3 points. And so this one is also a plane. And I can name it using those 3 points. Something really important to note is that they have to be able to connect to make a triangle. I would never want to name a plane using 3 points that make a straight line. So if I had for example, if I had another point right here, let's say that's called S, I can't use these 3 points to name that line because they make a straight line and not a triangle. So just be careful. The order of the letters doesn't matter, so I am just going to go in closest to alphabetical order I can. So I'm going to go P, Q, R. So that's plane PQR. All right, back up to my second one up here. Clearly, I see that there's just a point and it's named B, so I'll just call this point B. Now, my next shape right here, I need to be careful with. So the first thing I notice is that this has arrows on both sides of it. Okay, so when I have arrows on both sides, that means that this shape goes on forever in both directions, meaning that it has to be a line. So I know that this is a line. When naming lines, I must have 2 points. So we have the points U and V on here. So one way I could name this is UV, and then I put a line on the top, like so. So this is one way I could name it. Order doesn't matter, so I could also name this the line VU, again, with that same symbol on the top. Okay, so either one of those would work. Both of them mean the exact same thing. If I'm looking at my bottom left figure, I should notice that this one does not have arrows on the ends. It has 2 points. We call these end points. And what this tells me about this figure is that it stops. And so that means it has to be a segment. Segments are parts of lines. Lines, if this was a line, it would continue on forever. But it doesn't do that. So I know that it has to be a segment. So when we're naming a segment, just like with a line, we use 2 letters. And the symbol on top is just going to be a little straight line. No arrows. You cannot use arrows here because that would indicate a line, so we use this symbol instead. And just like with a line, I can also rearrange the letters. So both of those would be acceptable. They mean the same exact thing. If I look at my last one here, I should notice that on one end of this shape, there is an end point, and on the other side, there is an arrow. So this is kind of a hybrid between a segment and a line. It goes on forever in only one direction. And so we call shapes like this rays. Think of a ray of sunshine. So like this is where my sun is over here. And then I have the light shining out of the sun. So this is called a ray. When we're naming a ray, this is very important. The order matters. I always have to start with my starting point. And so I'm going to name this ray CD and then put an arrow on the side that it is going into. The arrow should always be pointing to the right. Again, has to start with C. There is no other way I could name this. So take a second to pause the video if you need to finish writing this down. I am going to continue on to example number 2. Oops. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got here. All right, in example number 2, we are doing the opposite of what we did in example number 1. So in example number 1, we were given a picture and we had to name it. Now we're going to be given the name of something and we have to draw a picture. So let's take a look at this. All right, so this shape right here, I'll notice it has an arrow going in one direction, meaning it must be a ray. So I know that it's going to start at my starting point, which is A, and go forever in one direction. And somewhere on there, I need to include the point B. If I take a look at this one right here, there are no arrows on the top of this, so that means that it's a segment because it stops. So I should have 2 endpoints connected with a straight line. The order of the letters does not matter. So I could put it like this, or I could put an S here and an R here. The order doesn't matter as long as I've got both of them there. My third one is plane A. Remember, we use a parallelogram to represent planes, so I did my best to sketch one there. And then I'm just going to put a capital A in one of its corners, and we're done. On the bottom row, I have this right here, and I would read this as line MN because it's got arrows on both sides. So my picture should also have, oof, that was a really bad one. My picture should also have lines on both sides, and I need to have 2 points on here. One of them will be M, one will be N. Again, the order here could be flipped around. The only one where the order matters is with rays. So this is the only one that I have to be careful of to make sure that it's going in the right direction. All right, my one right here, plane PQR. So I'm going to draw my parallelogram to represent a plane. And since I've got PQ and R on here, I need to have 3 points. And don't write this down just yet. I want to explain this. Remember that my 3 points cannot be on the straight line, so I could not use this picture. Okay, this would not work. That R there is in a straight line, so I would have to put my third point somewhere over here so that I could draw a triangle between my 3 points. And now I'm going to name 1P, 1Q, and then 1R. And then lastly, we have point C, which is super easy. It's literally just a point, and we'll call it C. That is the end of this video. Come back for the next section of our packet.